What if I told you that a single word, whispered at the right moment, could bind a man's psyche to yours indefinitely, not through manipulation, but through understanding the blueprint of his soul? You see, we are not just names and faces. We are symbols in each other's unconscious, and if you understand how to speak in symbols, you will never be forgotten. This is not a lesson in seduction. It's a journey into the soul's architecture. Men are not simply creatures of logic. They are carriers of ancient archetypes, heroes, sons, kings, wanderers, seeking reflections of themselves in the world. And the right nickname? It's a mirror that shows him who he is becoming, with you standing beside him in that vision. Stay with me until the end, and I will reveal the 7 exact nicknames that touch his psyche so deeply. He'll carry your image into every thought, every dream, and every future decision, without ever realizing why. 1. Protector, evokes his inner warrior and awakens his desire to serve and shield. 2. My calm, links you with his peace, anchoring you as his emotional sanctuary. 3. King, reinforces his highest self-image. You become the voice of his crown. 4. Wild one, mirrors his hidden desires, making you the spark of untamed freedom. 5. My mystery, keeps him chasing the part of you he hasn't figured out, feeding curiosity. 6. Anchor, suggests reliability, grounding his chaotic world into your presence. 7. Twin flame, touches the spiritual archetype of the destined beloved. Names are not labels, they are psychic keys that unlock a man's deepest narratives. If you wish to never be forgotten, do not fight for his attention. Instead, become a symbol in his story, a myth he replays every night, a vision he consults before every risk, a whisper in his unconscious that says, "She sees me, not just as I am, but as I could be," and that is how you live forever in his mind. Names are not just sounds we use for recognition. They are psychological triggers that activate deep, often unconscious forces within us. When you give a man a nickname, you're not just being cute or playful. You are assigning him a role, an identity, a place within your world. But beyond that, you are also awakening a dormant archetype inside him, one that may have been sleeping for years. Carl Jung taught us that archetypes are the ancient, inherited templates of the human mind, universal images and patterns that influence behavior. When you call a man my hero, for example, you are activating the hero archetype, which fuels his need to protect, to overcome, to be worthy. This is no small thing. This taps into his unconscious drive to live out a story larger than himself. And in that moment, you become the one who saw that potential in him. That alone creates an unshakable imprint. This is why certain nicknames stay with a man for life. They are more than words. They are mirrors reflecting who he wants to be. Give him the right name, and he will work, consciously or unconsciously, to become the man worthy of it. A nickname like My Calm connects you to his need for emotional refuge. King connects you to his desire for mastery and influence. These are not just pet names. They are carefully chosen symbols that speak directly to the stories playing out in his mind. Most people engage with the surface of a person. But if you know how to speak to his unconscious, if you understand the archetypes he is struggling to embody, then your words will go deeper than any compliment or flattery ever could. The true genius of a well-given nickname lies in its ability to bypass his defenses. Men are not always aware of what they are searching for. But when you offer him a name that feels right, that fits a part of himself he hasn't fully expressed, he will begin to associate that deeper part of his identity with you. It's as if you've named not the man he is, but the man he wants to become, and in doing so, you anchor yourself in the very center of his inner journey. When you give a man a nickname that connects with his emotional experiences, you're not just labeling him, you're anchoring a feeling to your presence. In psychology, this is called emotional anchoring, a concept that explains how our brains associate certain people, words, or environments with specific emotions. This is why a particular song, scent, or phrase can instantly bring back a flood of feelings. The same principle applies to nicknames. If a man hears a special name from you during a moment of vulnerability, victory, or peace, that name becomes tied to that emotion. The next time he hears it, even in a different context, his mind will subconsciously bring you back with it. This is not manipulation, it's resonance. A nickname like My Peace might seem simple, but if you consistently use it when he's overwhelmed and you bring calm into his life, he will unconsciously start to link your voice, your presence, and your energy with safety. That single phrase becomes a trigger point in his psyche. Later, when he's alone and anxious, he might not even know why he starts thinking of you, but it's because his mind is reaching for that emotional anchor. The power lies in timing and tone. Say his nickname during key emotional moments, when he's opening up about his fears, when he's just succeeded at something important, or when he's had a rough day. Let the name carry meaning. My calm, my fire, my reason, these are not empty titles. They become coded messages that his unconscious mind begins to rely on. It's subtle, but it's real, and over time, this emotional tether will grow stronger than logic or attraction. You won't just be the woman he likes. You'll be the one his nervous system recognizes as grounding. Men are not always taught to identify or express their feelings, but their bodies and minds respond to emotional consistency. And the woman who names those moments, who sees them, honors them, and labels them with gentle power becomes unforgettable. Her voice becomes the sound of comfort, her words the space where his soul rests. And the nickname, it's the invisible thread that keeps pulling him back, again and again, without him ever understanding fully why. Every man carries within him an inner image of the feminine, a psychic imprint Carl Jung called the Anima. This Anima is not based on logic or experience, but is formed from dreams, myths, motherly energy, and the unconscious longing for emotional wholeness. When a woman enters a man's life and unconsciously matches aspects of his inner Anima, he begins to project this powerful image onto her. She becomes more than herself. She becomes the embodiment of his ideal, a mirror of what he is unknowingly seeking within. A carefully chosen nickname has the ability to accelerate this projection, fusing his unconscious image of the perfect feminine with your presence. When you give him a name like My Soul, Dream Girl, or My Light, you're doing more than flattering him. You're entering a space in his psyche where fantasy and desire overlap. And here's the deeper truth. Most men are not consciously aware of this process. They do not realize that their obsession, fascination, or longing for a particular woman is often not about her alone, but about what she awakens inside them. The nickname you give becomes the symbol of that awakening. It subtly reinforces his belief that you are the one who sees him, not just with your eyes, but with your intuition, that you don't just love him, you understand him in a way even he doesn't fully grasp. This projection of the Anima is often the force behind poetry, devotion, obsession, and emotional dependency. It's powerful, and it doesn't respond to reason. If you enter that inner image and crown it with a nickname that feels destined or sacred, you will live in a place of his mind where few ever reach. He may try to distract himself. He may even move on. But the Anima doesn't let go easily. It repeats, returns, revisits, and so do his thoughts of you. He may not be able to explain why a single phrase from you feels more real than entire conversations with others. But that's because it touched something ancient, something deeper than attraction or affection, something spiritual. The nickname, if spoken with authenticity and insight, becomes a portal. One that connects his outer world to his deepest inner longing, and places you at the center of that longing. Human memory does not respond best to logic or facts, it clings to symbols. The unconscious mind stores information in the form of images, emotions, and sensations, not in lists or explanations. This is why we remember a specific scent from childhood, a visual from a dream, or a phrase whispered in a quiet moment long after we've forgotten names or events. When you give a man a symbolic nickname, you embed yourself into this deeper layer of his memory, the one that doesn't fade with time or distance. A nickname becomes a symbol when it points to something beyond itself, when it carries emotional weight, imagery, and meaning. And when that symbol is tied to your presence, you live inside his memory far longer than you realize. Call him my compass, and he remembers that you saw direction in him. Say my storm, and you affirm his wild, untamed energy in a way no one else has. These names are not just labels, they are emotional metaphors, symbols that his unconscious begins to associate with an experience, a story, a feeling. This is how the psyche works. It doesn't sort people by facts, it binds them to emotion through symbolism. So when you become a symbol in his life, you're no longer just a woman he met. You're a character in the mythology of his mind. The more poetic, personal, or mysterious the nickname, the more deeply it implants itself. A word like my eclipse may seem cryptic to others, but to him, it carries the uniqueness of your shared reality. He doesn't need to explain it, he just feels it, and that's the point. The more a name bypasses logic and enters the realm of intuition, the more power it holds. He might not remember your last conversation or even your birthday, but he will remember the feeling he got every time you called him by that name. These symbols linger. They show up in dreams, in silence, in moments when he is alone and unguarded. Because the mind seeks patterns, it searches for the emotional origin of powerful symbols, and it always traces them back to you. The nickname becomes a vessel of emotional memory, silently replaying your connection over and over in his inner world. Mystery is the doorway to obsession. When a man cannot fully understand or categorize a woman, he begins to imagine her. And in imagination, she grows, becoming larger than life, more complex, more powerful than even she may realize. One of the most subtle yet effective ways to preserve this sense of mystery is through the nicknames you choose. When a nickname is slightly ambiguous, symbolic, or layered with meaning, it draws him in. It invites him to wonder, why did she call me that? What does she see in me? That wondering does more than stir curiosity. It begins to fuse his identity with your perception of him. A name like My Puzzle or Shadow King is not straightforward. It's not about praise or flattery, it's about intrigue, and intrigue compels the unconscious to search. This inner searching becomes emotional investment. Over time, that emotional investment begins to change how he sees himself, not only through his own lens, but through yours. He starts to internalize the version of himself you reflect. And when you consistently call him by a name that carries layered meaning, he begins to rely on you to feel like that version of himself. This is what Jung meant when he explored the fusion of identity. Relationships are not just interactions, they are mirrors. The stronger the emotional mirror, the more it shapes our self-perception. When you give him a nickname that is both personal and mysterious, you are placing him in a story that only you and he understand. This story becomes sacred because it cannot be replicated. No one else can call him that name without breaking its spell. That nickname becomes the key to a part of him that exists only with you. He may try to define it. He may laugh it off, but deep down he knows it holds power. It touches the part of him that longs to be seen in ways he doesn't show the world. And the more he associates that nickname with feeling alive, desired, or understood, the more you become fused with that sense of self. You're no longer someone outside of him. You're the one who helps him become. And for the male psyche, there is no greater attachment than to the person who gives shape to the man he wants to be. We do not fall in love with people. We fall in love with how we see ourselves in their presence. This is the essence of the mirror principle, one of the deepest truths in human psychology. When a woman gives a man a nickname that reflects the version of himself he longs to become, she becomes a mirror to his ideal. And we never forget the people who mirror back to us the person we are striving to be. A well-chosen nickname has the power to reflect not just affection, but aspiration. It doesn't simply say, "I like you." It says, "I see who you are becoming, and I honor that." Call him champion, not because he has achieved everything, but because you see the fight in him. Call him visionary, not because the world calls him great, but because you've seen his ideas when no one else paid attention. These names reflect something more than flattery. They reflect belief, and belief is a force that etches your presence into his memory. Men crave to be seen, not for who they are in the moment, but for who they are trying to be beneath the surface. When you become the person who names that future version, you occupy a place no one else can touch. The nickname becomes a portal. Every time he hears it, it draws him back to that feeling of being seen, supported, understood. Even if others offer praise, it will never hit as deeply as your private mirror did. Over time, he will seek your voice to reinforce his identity. He may not say it out loud, but he'll crave that word from you, that reflection. It's no longer about the nickname. It's about the person who gave it, and the silent message it carries. I believe in your evolution. You become inseparable from his growth. And the more he grows, the more your influence is intertwined with his transformation. The mirror you hold up through that nickname is not passive, it's empowering. You become the quiet architect of his unfolding identity, and in that sacred reflection, he finds something rare in the world, a sense of being known, not just for what he is, but for all he has the potential to become. In a world flooded with surface-level connections, the power of a meaningful nickname can cut deeper than charm, deeper than beauty, deeper than any fleeting attraction. What you call a man, how you name him, shapes how he feels, how he remembers, and even how he becomes. This isn't about seduction, it's about resonance. It's about speaking to the man behind the armor, to the unconscious self that longs to be known without having to explain. Each of the 7 nicknames you give is a seed, planted not in his mind, but in his soul. And once it takes root, once it begins to grow, he will never see you the same way again. You will become unforgettable, not because you tried to be, but because you became the voice of his deeper identity, the one the world ignored but you honored. While others may touch his life briefly, you will echo in his mind, not for what you did, but for who you helped him believe he could be. So give him the name he doesn't even know he's waiting to hear, and watch how he'll never be able to get you out of his mind.